Good afternoon, everyone. If you find my channel, welcome. If you don't know me, most likely, right? My name is Frank. And I decided to make this new channel because someone that I look up to and follow, his name is Economic Ninja, sent a challenge out to everyone that's over 50. Unfortunately, that would be me. To make a channel and speak, we'll say, lessons, experience, life's regrets. So I took on that challenge because I've always, for a very long time, I've been trying to find my place in the world. Yep. The older you get, the more you wonder what you're here to do. And sometimes we keep finding what that is. Just keep moving forward. Brush the dust off your knees, feet, get back up. Doesn't matter how many times you get down, get back up. It's how many times you get up. You quit, you're done. So, I want to put this out here because I want to find my voice and actually lead others so that they can find what it is in their life that they find challenges in, and that they can actually overcome their obstacles. So with that said, one of the things that I wanted to just talk about today was what I call standing up for what's right, even when you're alone. Depending upon how you grew up, maybe this doesn't mean anything. But the way I was growing up, and the values that my father instilled into me, was that no matter what comes in your life, when you see something wrong, if you're safe to do so, to stand up and to say this is not right. Have that courage. Everyone's, especially nowadays, you find a leader, someone that has courage to stand up, and those people knock them down. Those are the people that are absolutely dangerous in this world. There's so many people looking for strong leadership. So with that said, the experience that I'm going to tell you today, it actually happened to me, what was it, this year? Wow. Yeah, it was this year. I thought it was last year. So it was in February. Might have been late February, early March. I'm an old guy, so. Your memory seems to go at 50. Yeah. Anyway. Ninja and I are both goofy. So, you don't like goofy? You're just going to have to. You're going to have to bear with me, alright? I'm an old guy, alright? Cut me some slack. Cut me just a little bit of slack, alright? Anyway, back to the story. So, this back in March, and I was in like a 4-year relationship with my previous ex-girlfriend, and she actually lived with me here in my house and her daughter. And I to this day, I still love them, even though they're not biologically, she's not my biological daughter. And they're really good people. We all have our flaws, and we all mess up, because I tell you, Ninja says it best. He screws up all the time. So, oh yeah. Life is always about learning. Always. Keep that in mind. You're going to fail. Don't keep doing what you need to do. Anyway, sorry to digress a little bit. So, this daughter, she goes to a really good school. Like, I don't want to say quite high end, but this school, you have to scholastically do extremely well. So they don't just take, it's a public school, yep, but you gotta have some grades. And I tell you, I'm still proud of her. I'll always be proud of her. And I wouldn't have done it when I was a kid. I tell you that. Like hard classes. I mean, I had some hard classes, but she's taking classes, and they're gonna probably be, help her so that she can graduate early from college, actually. So she was in. I'm trying to remember the actual word that they actually used. It sounded forensics, something like that. Through her, one of her English classes, and she really looked up to one of these teachers. And she had a couple of friends in there, and she really liked it. She enjoyed, what she was doing. And one of the things that she wanted to do was like in drama, to, I kind of get it, right? Like, hey, my life sucks, and I want to, I want to be an actor. I want to play out a role that, like, I'm a dork. I play D&D. I still play D&D sometimes. Not, it has been a while, but so I get it, right? And sometimes, you want to be a role. So anyway, they have like these, practices every like once or twice a week, and then they have like these tournaments, and other schools participate, and it's kind of like a tournament, and they put points, and then they actually go to like state and things like that. But it's really good for these kids to, if they're in drama or if they're in speech class, or a lot of these kids do this as an extra credit type of thing. They don't have to do it. But she really wanted to pursue that. So they needed judges. They needed volunteer people during these events to judge, right? And I couldn't judge anyone from her school, so it was, you volunteered, you said which school you were from, and when they would make sure that people were lined up, judges that, you would be judging other classes. But so, it's a thankless job. Right? I wanted to do it because there was a need. Her school needed it, and I wanted to support her, because kids these days, they need strong male influence. I'll talk about something about that later, but for today's discussion, let's keep it to the topic at hand. So I did a couple of these events, and I kind of liked it. I mean, I got to see some of these kids that are 13, 14, just get up and, they actually perform. They stumble. Some kids are really good, some kids are bad, and they don't care. They're there to actually have fun, and it's like they're learning and they're having fun. And I'm like, man, when I was a kid, it's like, man, this would have been hard for me. Give me my own Nintendo or Atari. I tell you, that is one regret that I had, but maybe for another video. So anyway, back in, like I said, February, March time frame, we go to this. I'm trying to remember the school. It was actually a pretty, not, it was a public school again, but it wasn't like just some, anyway, we'll just call it middle of the road, but, pretty good school. And and I'm in between rounds, and they got like this area where the judges sit. They call them judges, but yeah, we performance, and we have these, you kind of grade them based on these performance, like what did they do well, what did they not do well, and it's got like a break area for just the judges, and in between there, I'm going back in there, and it's like almost lunchtime, right? So I'm like, all right, I'll have my lunch, and I kind of had it slightly early. I mean, you get there like 6:30, so like me, 6:30 on a Saturday. It meant something to me to go to this thing. So I think it's like 12-ish. So, I was hungry, and I'm like, all right, well, if I don't do it now, we're going to be busy with these rounds, because you're going to be busy pretty much until like 4 or 5. It's like almost an old day thing on a Saturday that I could be doing something else, right? So anyway, so people come in and out, and then as it gets closer to like 12:30, more people filter in. And I'm trying to keep, hey, I'm trying to be on point, be on mission. We're here for the kids, right? We're trying to give them, try to inspire them a little bit, but, give them some constructive criticism, but they're also young kids, I call them young kids, right? But you're in your formative years, anything, anything, you hear it and you just think, oh no, it's the end of the world, oh no. You know, we'll go down Frank's memory lane about something like that. So anyway, people are talking, and they're pretty much, like, hey, Lions and baseball, and are people just talking back and forth between, especially a lot of the volunteers were other parents, right? I mean, it makes sense. I mean, show up for your kids. You're supporting your school. You show your kid you're trying to be involved, especially nowadays. Like, man, I wish my parents did. I mean, they tried their best, but I mean, especially nowadays, like, everyone's worked so much, and just I wish I knew that when I was younger. But so, I'm just thinking, like, hey, man, people just talk, small talk, and I hate small talk. Like, hey, it's a nice weather. It's like, dude, man, it's February. It sucks. Like, just come on. Like, there's no baseball on. There's nothing, Lions didn't make it to the Super Bowl and all that type. So it's just kind of like a dead time in sports. And it's like, all right, what do I talk about? I didn't say this earlier, but, I ended up getting a bachelor's in mechanical engineering, and I work in the automotive industry. I work for one of the domestic OEMs. Let's just put it at that. With that said, I'm just like, I don't want to talk about cars. Like, I don't want to talk about engineering. I just, can we talk about anything else? Like, hey, I try to, like, hey, how's your kid doing? Do they like it? Is it, do they at least, most of the kids are like, yeah, they really like it. So I didn't think anything of it, that people would just be talking about it. I just thought, hey, it's kind of innocent, right? We're here at a school, right? We're trying to uphold being an adult and setting an example for, these next generations. I don't know. The world is just, I have no words for it. I could probably make a whole nother video about that. But this group of about, I know there was at least 4, and then it kind of just like snowballed. Like like a black hole sucking up. And I tell you, that's a good description, because it felt, in the energy, I could feel this like dark, just like, like sucking. It just, and I didn't think of it. And they just started getting louder and louder and louder. And, these women, I don't want to call it stereotype, but, they didn't have normal color hair. And, yeah, they didn't like guys either. Or at least guys that stood their ground. But I'm just like, whatever. I'm just here to, I'm just here to judge, man. You do what you want, right? Whatever you do at home, I don't care. But they go on to talk about things of a sexual nature, right? We're in a public school. And there's kids, like, not even, like, there's like a hallway, and kids are walking back and forth because it's lunchtime, right? So they're actually moving around. Typically, they go to these classes, right? And they're in the class, right? So the only time these kids moving around is like during lunchtime, right? So, and they get louder and louder, and it's just like, I'm like, what? Why are we talking about this? and it gets disgusting. And I'm like, I'm Gen X, and guys, like, come on. Like, if you're a guy, and if you're older than 40, I mean, I heard stuff when I was a kid. I was like, oh my, like, and it was like a sewer. Like, I never heard of guys talk this. Oh my lord. I, I was, I mean, I was not only embarrassed, but I was just like, man, I had a couple friends, and man, it was almost like the dirtier they were, the more they just had to like egg each other. But then they're talking about like, like, oh yeah, and I can't, you know, get it, my guy can't do it right, and oh, he's just, he's a little, wimp. That's not the word she used, but you can fill in the gaps, right? It just goes on and starts talking about like men bad and this and that, and they're just getting louder and louder. And two other ladies come in, and I'm just looking around. And I see the parents they're not doing a darn thing, right? And I'm just like, man, Frank, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what did I get into? Like, why am I here? Why, God, why did you put me next to these ladies? Why? And I'm just like, man, we can't. Anyway, I could keep griping about this all day, but we're not. So they go on, and I'd have to turn around. I'm just like looking at him, like I haven't said anything yet. Just like look around, like, and she's looking dead in my eyes, like, I mean, like looking at me and like, oh yeah, and men are so dumb and they don't know what they're doing, and we can do whatever you want. And she's like looking at me like, man, lady, you're lucky that you're in a civilized society, because I'm telling you, like, ages ago, total disrespect. Number one, total disrespect, right? And then, you're given crap because guys can't defend themselves, right? Like, I didn't care. I'm just like, go ahead, lady. You just keep, bring your cesspool. I'm like, you just give me all the ammo to like, yep, you're the stereotype and then some, right? Like, I truly had, I thought I thought they were decent people in the beginning, and then I was like, no, they ain't decent by any means. No, these are like, I don't know if you're religious, but man, they definitely were under influence of something. I don't know if they invited it or just like, programmed. Anyway, and I'm like beside myself. I'm like, my jaw's on the ground, and I'm like looking around. I'm like looking around, and none of these parents, they're like shying away, like, slowly, and for a moment I look at each, like, the men, like, all right, I get it as a, I look at these men, and they're just like, oh my, they're just, and then I see their, the moms or whatever. It was, I mean, if anything, maybe the women should have said something, right? Because as a man, you can't say anything, right? Like, oh, who are you, right? Man, I was more upset at the parents, but I was like, you know what? That's on them, right? So I said, this ain't, no, this is, kids can hear. I know these kids, they're out in the hall, can hear this. Because, like, I'm a loud person, and I'm like, all right, I'll talk to we had coach, like, there's like two teachers, right, from our school, and they're the coach, right? I said, well, I'm, I let this go on for 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, I gotta say something, right? And I'm not gonna say it to this lady because she's just gonna So and like none of these parents, I'm like I'll say something, right? So I'm trying to got the phone. They're all busy. And finally, because I said, hey, I got to talk to you about something that's going down in the in the coach's room, right? I'm like, this is pretty disrespectful, to say the least, right? So finally, after like I don't know, 15 more minutes, she finally says, hey, let's sit down, let's go. I tell her everything that's going on, right? And then she looks at me and goes, what's the problem? I was like, you're serious? And she's like, yeah, they can talk about whatever they want. And I'm like, you can talk about stuff of a sexual nature in a public school in front of kids. I mean, are we here? Are we here? Are we really doing this? What? What? Did I like go to a different planet? Like, I mean, there was like I swear I had so much adrenaline going at that point. I sort of kind of let her have it. I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, this is the coach. Like, there's no standard as women and men. Like, we're adults. We're the adults, right? If these were kids screwing around, all right, whatever, right? Like, they're not my kids, right? They're not my school, whatever. But my lord, we're supposed to be leaders and show what adults do. I'm like, what? You don't think this is a problem? She's like, no, they can talk about it. Like, she was dead serious, and I was just like, aren't we here to be judged? Aren't we here to volunteer for these kids? And she's like, oh, yeah, I understand. That's how you feel. And I'm like, no. This is not about my feelings. This is about morals and values. And she's just like, I'm like, I'm done. And I just turn around and I walk out. And she's like, oh, what does that mean you're not going to judge? And I'm like, what part of I'm done do you not understand? Oh my God. Sorry. Anyway, so I go back because I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm like, I can't support this. I can't support this. So I go in, right, and I'm like in the break, in the area, and they're still there talking about it. And they looking at me like, what are you going to do, punk? Yeah, I just looked at him like, with laser eye. I can't do it because I can't quite stare at the camera that good. I get my backpack, I put it on my thing, and the one guy that kind of was like, not too far from me, and he was like the last guy that kind of like did that. He didn't want to say anything, but he just looked at me and he's like, you're going? And I looked him dead in the eye and I said, yeah, I can't do this. I said, I can't support this. Something like that. It does. And he kind of looked at me and he kind of went like that. So at least they shied away, but they knew it was wrong. And they chose not to do anything. And even I'm there, right? Again, the message for today. Stand up for what's right, even if you're alone. And like I said, we'll talk about in other videos about regrets, but I regret not doing that earlier in my life. And maybe I'll add a little bit here as this video might be getting a little long here, but yeah. I, I mean, especially nowadays. But anyway, even I was a kid, right? Like, I tried. I really tried. I wish, that's another regret. I wish I listened to my father, even though man, I didn't get to spend a lot of time with my dad. Um, and he was a man of 5 words. I'm telling you, he was from the silent generation. I'm Gen X, and but man, you know, he was a Korean War veteran, and I swear I again, I'm pretty sure. I mean, he said some things to me when I was like a little kid, but man, I swear, I wish I stood up for more, you know, because I was like, hey man, this is wrong, but no one's saying anything, right? And when I was younger, I was just like, I just wanted to survive, right? Like, I got bullied, and back then, Gen X, man, I mean, like, you'd be on this playground, it's recess time, man, and they're like the lunch ladies outside, right at the door, because like there's a little spot, right, and she can see everyone, she's just, we're getting our butts pummeled. Nobody was there to help us, right? And it's like, maybe one of your good friends, if they saw you, maybe they stop. I had a good friend, like, I had a good friend. He's still a good friend of mine. I just don't get to see him that often. His name is John. If you're out there, John, thank you, brother. But, yeah, man, like, it was like survival of the fittest, dude. It was Gen X. If we're still alive, it's the ones that survived. Some of us didn't make it, but again, so many times in my life, especially like pre-20, like, after 20, it slowly came, and it just got to the point where it was just like, I just had it. You get older and just, it's like your BS detector goes off, and you're just like, man, again, evil happens all the time. It's never a perfect world, right? What's that saying? All that evil needs is for good men to do nothing. And that's the message today. And I encourage you to stand up when you see something wrong. It doesn't matter what it is. Trust me, it takes a lot to stand up when everyone wants to tear you down. And even though I'm getting old, that's what I myself continue to tell myself is, most people are, I hate to say it, cowards. And some people are cowards and they don't want to be cowards. And sometimes some people stand up, but I just can't. People that have the courage, they try to do something about it, or at least stand up to it. And I tell you, I see so many people tearing down these people that actually have courage to stand up. I'm more like, hey man, just, if you're not part of the problem, get out of the way. Let us that have the courage to stand up, or those that want to help others that have the courage that have to stand up, right? Because there's a lot of people, they'll help the person that stands up alone, right? Like, I'm sorry, right? There's a ton of people. He's one of the few people, right? Like, try to, but politics aside, it doesn't matter, right? I'm more like, hey man, this is totally wrong. I don't care. I don't care whose values, this side, that side. Like, dude, no. You, there's a certain respect level, right? And I get it. Like, especially nowadays, it's like, you try to do the right thing, you go to jail, right? Right? Hey, you can come in here, do all sorts of crimes, and you get paid for it, right? You try to follow the law, shame on you. You follow the law, so we're gonna, you're gonna pay more money. I tell you. So again, all jokes aside, stand up for what's right. Even if you're alone, no matter what it is. My belief is, irregardless of the cost. I might be a little gung-ho from that perspective, but I keep remembering what, my dad had to go through. Your feelings it's nothing, man. People died so that we can talk to one another. Have arguments about, who can go to the bathroom. Hats off to those guys, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure they fought and died, and they're like, I don't even know what the hell that was about. Guys from Nam, right? Yeah, okay, everything's rigged. But those men fought for one another, not for something stupid. My dad told all the time. But hey, keep your head up. Remember, Frank's here for you. And again, I just continue to stand up for what's right, even if you're alone. With that said, good day. Today is November 2nd, 2024. And I encourage you all to stand up. Good day.